This is the Revenue Governor. I am April, your host, and we are getting into no one believes the forecast. Sorry to tell you, no one believes it. You can feel it in your calls. Listen to the pauses, the over-explaining, the we still feel good about it. Everyone is trying to make weak deals sound safer than they really are. Because once someone asks what actually changed, the whole thing will fall apart, won't it? The conversation can stay high and the number keeps moving forward. That is the problem. It's not the forecast being wrong. It's that no one trusts what's underneath it. So let's talk about the moment the room actually changes. There's a point in every forecast call where the energy is going to shift. You can hear it almost immediately. The updates, they get a little longer. The language is going to get a little softer. The certainty, it's going to become emotional instead of operational. And who wants that? Take a pause. Think about that for a second. And the deal is just going to stop sounding real. It starts sounding protected. Well, guys, that's the moment the room actually changes. Did you notice? It doesn't change because anyone said the deal was weak. It changes because everyone can feel the lack of evidence that's underneath. So let's just talk through a micro scene of just a regular forecast call that you can have. You ask, as a leader, how are you feeling about this one? Your rep, they say, I still feel pretty good. You say what actually changed, and then you wait. The rep says, well, we had another conversation. There's a pause, right? I hope. You as the leader, you're asking what specifically changed, and your rep is telling you, well, they're evaluating it internally. Well, that's the moment, right? Because everyone knows a conversation is not movement, and still evaluating, that's not going to give you progression, not the progression that you're looking for your forecast not to miss, right? So let's expand on this. Why does this matter? Well, most forecasts don't collapse suddenly. They erode really slowly, one deal at a time, one assumption at a time, one unchallenged update at a time. And because of that, it happens gradually. Your team is going to normalize it. The language is going to become familiar, and the weak deals, they're going to become just expectations. You're expecting these deals every month. And so the system quietly is going to lower the standards overall, which will affect the company, the revenue, the culture. Now, why do weak deals get explained? Well, strong deals, they sound simple. Weak deals, they require interpretation. That's actually one of the clearest signals in forecasting. The more explanation a deal needs, the weaker it's probably going to be, right? You'll hear they're still interested, they like the proposal, they're trying to align internally, maybe even we still have a path. None of that is evidence, right? That's all interpretation. And interpretation, that's going to slowly replace inspection, the inspection that you are supposed to be doing as their leader. So what should happen? It's simple. Someone should stop the conversation and ask, what has changed? What progressed? What did the buyer actually do? Do they add procurement? Did they confirm budget? Did they schedule a legal review? Did they expand their stakeholders? Those are movement signals. Those are not optimism. That's what you're looking for in these forecast calls. Why do your forecasts keep missing, you wonder? Well, the bigger the company, the bigger this issue is, right? Because multiple revenue studies over the last several years, they have actually shown that forecast accuracy consistently breaks down at the deal level. Not because the leader backs or lacks a dashboard. It's because buyer progression is being interpreted instead of verified. And verification is really important in sales. Gartner actually has repeatedly pointed out that B2B buyers, they spend most of their buying process internally. They don't spend the time with vendors. That means if you cannot clearly identify internal buyer movement, you are usually projecting confidence into silence or onto silence. And most forecast calls, they are built exactly that way. So the forecast stops being real. This is where it breaks internally, quietly. It's not a miss. It happens way long before that. The forecast becomes a collection of defended assumptions, not validated opportunities. Deals survive simply because they've existed for a long time, not because they're actually progressing or because they've progressed. And once there are enough deals that survive that way, the number itself, it's so unstable. So let's talk about this, right? Because a rep confidence is going to roll into the manager confidence. The manager confidence is going to roll into the leadership confidence. The leadership confidence is going to roll into the actual commit number. and no one actually goes back to the deal. Who went to the deal? This is how weak forecasts get built. Not through lying, through layered interpretation. So let's talk about the goal of a forecast call. Usually, hopefully you're not this leader, but usually, at some point, the goal stops being validate the forecast and it becomes get through the forecast. You have a bunch of these forecast meetings. You want to just get through them, right? That's the shift usually. Now, the system is going to reward updates that sound stable. It's not going to reward updates that expose risk. So reps, they tend to learn how to present deals safely. Well, managers then learn how to defend uncertainty because that's what it is, a bunch of uncertainty. Leaders, well, they learn how to tolerate ambiguity as long as the number still feels possible until literally 2 weeks before the end of the month, right? Mid-month, a week before the month ends, a day, 2 days, then everyone's hustling. This is an illusion of progress. The deal is still active. It's still discussed. It's still being forecasted, but nothing has changed or is changing. There is no new stakeholder, no internal movement, no confirmed decision process, no pressure from the buyer, just updates. And updates, guys, updates create the illusion that something is actually happening, but updates are not movement. The deal is not moving. It did not move. The story did. Your story did. So week 1, let's say you had a good call. Week 2, now you're still engaged. Week 3, you're waiting on the next steps. Week 4, guess what? Feels close. Week 5, you're trying to get alignment internally. What changed? The language evolved. The deal did not change. And this is where you are missing things. This is why your number is not accurate. As a leader, just kind of think through why you accept this. Why do leaders accept this? Well, updates, they're going to reduce tension, aren't they? A rep, they say something that sounds reasonable. The manager, you're going to want to accept it. Leadership, you're going to want to move on. But the system begins to protect itself from discomfort. Now, why is that? Well, because challenging the deal, again, that's going to create pressure. Now the pipeline is going to shrink. Your commit levels, they're going to weaken. Your risk is going to become visible, right? And who wants that? So instead, what do? The deals get carried and they continue to get carried. Well, the room already knows. This is the part that no one really says out loud. Most forecast rooms already know which deals are weak. They know which ones are sitting. They know which ones are built on hope. They know, but no one wants to force the conversation because once the deal gets challenged, everything from there, it's connected and it starts shaking too. So weak deals, they stay alive through what? Silence. Does this sound familiar? Anything to flag? Nope, still tracking. The rep stays quiet, the manager moves on. Nobody actually believes anything. So why silence actually happens? Well, calling out the deal forces accountability. And accountability in leadership, especially sales leadership, I find that leaders have a really difficult time with this. Now, someone has to explain why it stayed in commit, why it was carried forward, why no one challenged it earlier. And most systems are not built for that level of inspection. So silence, it becomes a lot friendlier. It becomes your operational behavior without you even noticing. But what do we learn? Your behavior teaches the system and data doesn't lie. So what does this turn into later? Have you thought through it? Weeks later, the deal's going to slip, right? Everyone's going to act like they're surprised. They didn't hit. But it's not a surprise. It wasn't a surprise. The signal was there the entire time because nothing changed. There was no movement. There was no evidence. The forecast was weak from the very beginning. It just sounded acceptable long enough to survive. So what's the real failure here? Forecasts usually don't fail because of effort. Your teams are working, your calls are happening, meetings are happening. Usually forecasts will fail because no one is verifying reality at the deal level. I hear leaders say all the time, I'm going to coach to behaviors, patterns. That's not what we need here. We need verification on every single deal at the absolute deal level. And once that verification disappears, everything downstream is going to become unstable. Your pipeline, commit, your forecast, your reporting, all of it, everything. So Let's just think for a second. What strong forecast should actually sound like? Very much so different. A lot shorter, cleaner, more precise, concise. If you know me, you know I'm very concise. It shouldn't sound like we still feel good. It should be procurement entered, budget confirmed, legal review started, decision call scheduled. Strong deals, they sound operational. Weak deals sound emotional. That should be what makes this different for you as you're talking to your reps. So what actually is going to fix this? Because it's not a forecast problem. It's a control problem. Control is what fixes this. What's going to get inspected? What's going to get challenged? What requires evidence before moving forward? If a deal cannot clearly show change, it should not stay in your commit. Not because it feels risky, because it's actually not progressing. Look at the data. Look at the numbers. Look at the calls. Look at the deals. Look at the transcripts. Look at something. Take one deal. Ask one question. What did the buyer do this week? Not what they said. What did they do? If that answer is unclear, that deal is weak and it is not real. And the sooner you figure that out, the better for the organization. No one believes the forecast because underneath that number, everyone can feel the instability, the pauses, the explanations, the overconfidence, the lack of evidence. The room knows. They always do. The system just keeps moving right along anyway. If no one can clearly point to what actually changed in your deal is not progressing. And if it's not progressing, it doesn't belong. Weak deals get explained. They don't get inspected. If you're responsible for a forecast and want to see where your system is breaking, the Arbiter Diagnostic, it's going to be linked in the description. Until next time.